44 minutes of tism, let's go. This show gives me nothing but pain.
I clearly lead this multitude.
Time and place, time.
God.
What's up, Eggman?
The joke was so bad the stream crashed. Trust me, I have not missed anything. It's just fight scene after fight scene. I think it's safe to say that I officially do not trust anybody's opinion on Sonic media anymore.
Not even me.
Yes, especially you. Sonic, you can easily get out of that. Take it.
Dr. Dunk to Mothership. We've got the shard.
Go Super
Get us out
Sonic.
of this dump.
Go Quicksilver. Literally do anything!
Just faintly hear from another ditch. Sonic! I know you're doing something stupid!
Help!
Wait!
Help! Help!
And let that villain 9 do whatever he wants with you, not an option. No
Cool!
one believes
Who are you?
Who are you? Who is this? You know a show is great when prolonged periods of silence is what occurs after we fucking pause the show.
Literally, just grab it and run!
Yeah, Henry, I know you said before that, Season 2 is more entertaining than Season 1. I'm just gonna call you on your fucking bullshit. How dare you lie to me? How dare you fucking lie to me?
Watch.
You absolutely fucking gaslit me, you fucking bitch.
This video was sponsored by BetterHelp.
Oh my god. That is not going in the
hating
video.
gay people.
That's the end of the episode. Shadow's fucking dead. Let's go.
After what you did, destroy your own home, it's the only way you can ever live with yourself.
I was like, hold on.
Shut the fuck up, 9. The only reason this works is because this version of Sonic's retarded. The adventurous adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog would not fall for this fucking shit. My god.
I don't mind a good fight scene if it's done right.
Yeah, this ain't it, fam.
And because of this plan, they are now all working well together.
Oh my god, through the power of teamwork. This show has no. This show is nothing. This show is fucking nothing.
That's what I'm saying. He just
right.
taking up the ass. Just like Sonic fans. Oh my god, he's the embodiment of a Sonic fan.
Why didn't you
And
dodge? Well, Sonic got
Really?
sniped. Well, end of season. That was a fun recording. Hope you all had a fun time. Like, comment, subscribe, and I hate the show. Goodbye. Sonic, how dare you betray me? The show is pain. Just hit him, please!
Why do you think
I have never seen a Tails with a more punchable fucking face. Everything about the show is pain. So why didn't you take the shard?
Yeah, why
Didn't you just take the shard? Think of happy place, happy place. Damage means nothing.
Tommy, are you alive?
Yeah, man. Just,
I thought this show broke you, then just stayed you.
I'm just dumbfounded.
Yeah.
I got nothing to say to this.
Yeah, I think Henry put it best. This show feels like it's insulting my intelligence. Go for.
Sonic, just get the fucking shard. You need to leave. I just had nothing to say.
Damn, that really wiped you out. Holy shit.
How much of that show do you think we could have skipped and we would have missed nothing? Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Manga Writer, and those highlight reels are going to be a more common thing as time goes on. Hope you liked it, and to those who skipped it, yeah, fair enough. So, Sonic Prime. It was indeed a show. It was the talk of the town when it came out, and through its artificial splicing of one whole season to make it into 3 because creators just cannot catch a fucking break, the show received a lot of positive reception during seasons 1 and 2, and then when season 3 came by, the show just sort of vanished. It felt like overnight, all the momentum that Sonic Prime cultivated just sort of died, and it faded slowly away into the dark voids that is irrelevance, with the fanbase moving on to better, and hopefully better, future projects. It's sad that the only lasting impression the show has had nowadays is its comparison to the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which is indeed quite scathing. Now I feel that the general reason why Sonic Prime died so quickly for the general fanbase was because the final season of the show was just that bad. it was packed to the brim with issues, and it certainly soured people's love for the show over time, as a lot of things that could have sparked some interest from the past 2 seasons added up to nothing in the end. But I personally feel that there was more to that. What I would like to do in this video of me digging up this show's maggot-infested corpse is to tell all of you that Sonic Prime wasn't just suddenly terrible for Season 3, but the whole show was just doomed from the start. The red flags were there since the very beginning, and in this video that will certainly be very long, I will give you my personal reasons as to why Sonic Prime fundamentally failed as a show. To start off, here's a brief reminder of the story, from Seasons 1 to 3. Sonic Prime tells the story of Sonic and the gang fighting Eggman to avoid him getting his hands on a shiny new MacGuffin called the Paradox Prism. During the scurry, Sonic destroyed the prism and through its destruction ended up creating the Shatterverse, a space that houses different worlds featuring different versions of his friends. There's Egg Yolk City, featuring Renegade Nux, Rebel Rouge, Denzi in 1998, Rusty Rose, and Nine, a jungle world, featuring Brambles, Mangy, Prim, Hangry, and Thorn, and a world covered by water, featuring Captain Dread, Black Rose, Sails, Baton Rouge, and Catfish. For Seasons 1 and 2, Sonic, along with the help of these friends and Shadow, gather the different shards of the prism to put it all back together while avoiding new threats like backstabbing captains and the Chaos Council, a group of 5 Eggmen, consisting of Dr. Don't, Dr. Dunnit, Dr. Babble, Dr. Deep, and Mr. Dr. Eggman. But after taking out an Egg Titan and the time finally comes to put the final shard in, Nine, the variation of Tails with a lot more angst that Sonic grew to trust, misunderstood Sonic's intentions, feels betrayed by his friend's desire to go home, and goes rogue, taking the Phantom Prism for himself. Season 3 is then a race against time, and with the worlds joining forces, with even the Egg Council getting involved, Sonic and all of his new friends try to stop Nine from destroying not just himself, but the whole world. So, where in God's name do I even begin? To say that Sonic Prime was a mess of a story would be the understatement of the century. This plot had so much wrong with it that the hardest part of scripting this video was just trying to put everything together in a way in which I won't sound like a fucking schizo. So, to try my best, here's where I'm going to start. Plot convenience. Sonic Prime's reliance on plot convenience is more than I have ever seen in any other Sonic show. Scenes and entire plot points, ones that would not have occurred if any logic or reason were there, are allowed to happen because the characters either forget that they can do something, or that everyone in the room suddenly got the IQ of the Arctic. Some of the smaller examples include Sonic being allowed to say some last words before he gets killed, and is allowed to keep talking even though he's showing clear signs of trying to get Nine to do something to get him out. The people of Egg Yolk City never joining the Resistance before until one power outage caused by Sonic.
It could happen again. We gotta join the Resistance.
That's all it took! That's all it took! That's all it A power outage was all it took for those guys to go, maybe I don't want to be taken over anymore. What the fuck?
Power cuts. The resistance got it going on, man.
Power cuts. People revolution! It's a fucking show, I swear.
Sonic's shoes having the sudden ability to have him find prism shards when he gets close to them, and the show only remembers he has this power when it's convenient for the plot. Rusty Amy getting her freedom even though it's been established that the Chaos Council can just reprogram her into being obedient again, and just don't because they think she's useless, I guess. Which is a very dumb reason to let her have independence. The show revealing that time works differently in each world, but then doesn't acknowledge it ever again in later world jumps. Shadow not being able to go through the worlds with Sonic's tech so that he can't overshadow him in the story, Sails and Mangy surviving a plasmic bomb to the face, and managing to somehow hide away from everyone so that the show can have a surprise reveal that they're alive, even though their absence made everything more complicated.
What? How? There was an explosion.
Nobody checked for bodies.
We couldn't fly away from.
Bullshit.
No one saw that. No one saw them fly away. Literally no one.
You fuckers,
Also,
I could have just taken... You guys could have helped us get to fucking 9. You guys could fly. What the hell, guys? Why? We would have ended this 4 episodes ago!
Or Shadow knowing all about Nines' plan and the concept of alpha robots even though he was trapped in a hole for half the season. Conveniences will build up from things as small as these to some where if the story went ahead any other way, then Prime wouldn't have even happened. These examples include Eggman taking forever to get the prism out in episode 1. In the show, it insinuates that Eggman finding the prism and the boys meeting up at Green Hill's loop-de-loop happened around the same time. But in the scenes afterwards, it shows that the boys and Sonic took a good while to get to Eggman, but the prism still hadn't been taken out yet. So how long was Eggman just standing there and gloating after he found the prism? Why didn't he just immediately get to work if the prism is that important? Oh, I know. It's because if he did do that, there would be no plot. The story had to write Eggman in a way where he has to take forever to get the prism out, otherwise Sonic and the gang would have no chance to fight him or for Sonic to break the prism in the first place. A plot point that is a lot more complicated than what the show is trying to make it out to be, but just keep it in mind for now. I'll expand on it later. Or how in episode 2, Sonic and Shadow have a fight while Sonic is trying to get to the boys. Why didn't Sonic and Shadow tell each other what's going on? Why did Sonic lie to Shadow about the earthquake? Why doesn't Sonic tell Shadow about the mission he's on? Oh, I know, because the story wanted a scene where these two fight, and they couldn't think of a more organic way to do it. Or how in Season 2, Episode 8, where Nine misunderstood Sonic's intentions with the Phantom Prism and ends up betraying him, something that Shadow warned him about. For this whole season, Shadow has been shown to distrust Nine, even being reluctant to leave him alone with the Prism shards during the Egg Council's attack. So with this knowledge, why was Shadow so far away from Nine if he didn't trust him? Why did he leave him and Sonic alone after the Egg Titan was defeated when he would have certainly gone after them? The answer is simple. It's simply because if Shadow ended up trusting his gut, this plot wouldn't be possible, and Nine would have had no chance to betray Sonic and escape. Or how in Season 3, Sonic gets thrown out of the Grim by Shadow and Nine makes 3 bird robots to go and capture him. And even though capturing him is their one and only goal, these birds just never do that. Because, believe it or not, plot demands they keep attacking and trying to kill Sonic to create artificial tension. Or how about the entire pirate side plot in episode 3 of season 3, where Sonic is trying to get his friends back, friends that betrayed him all the time I might add, and Nine puts all of his focus on getting Sonic back from the pirate world even though he could just go to the base and destroy it so that Sonic has no way to get back. Because it has been proven that one blast of lightning was enough to make the shield go down a massive percentage. Yeah, after Shadow tossed Sonic out, he went to the Egg Council base because, yeah, we gotta have everybody team up for the final season, cause why not? Nine could have been a really good threat with his intelligence, but he just never uses it when it matters. These points and so many others are why Sonic Prime feels like everything is happening even if none of it makes any sense. Which gets to a point where the show gets so reliant on plot convenience that turning off your brain and just watching what happens is less painful than thinking about how this entire plot is relying on characters just forgetting everything and being too stupid to be efficient. Along with the plot convenience being glaringly bad, the emotional moments or heartfelt scenes are just something this show cannot do to save its life. These moments will enter a scene with the grace and smoothness of a wrecking ball into a steel building, and are so forced and unnecessary that they come off as tacky rather than sincere. For example, in episode 3 of season 1, Sonic has a moment of deep introspection after he learns of the fate of the prism. A moment that could have been great if it wasn't for the fact that it was done way too early, and Sonic is doing this while almost being captured by the Egg Council. These guys are trying to break down the door literal meters behind them, but the show just sort of went, shh, hold on, let's do this moment because it'll be really emotional. Show, will you read the room? In episodes 4 and 5 of Season 1 in the Jungle arc, Thorn and the others have beef with one another because the gang wasted so much food and didn't do anything to give back to the forest, making Thorn, the hippie of the group, snap and send them up to hide and starve in the trees. And from this story, we get both sides of the argument. Recontextualizing a conflict is nothing new, and this conflict was supposed to be a whole there's two sides to every story kind of narrative. But the issue is that in their own flashback, where Prim explains what happened from their side, the flashback shows them wasting food, meaning that you already know why Thorn is mad before she even says anything. And because of this, her entire moment of realizing she became a monster through sadness and rage feels so anticlimactic. This scene should have been where everything was recontextualized so that you grew to sympathize with Thorn, but we already know why she's angry, so there's no point to tack on her realizing she became a monster. I can't even think of any other story that had a similar execution because I have never seen a show mess up such an easy storytelling trope in my entire life. What happened here? Captain Dread also gets a little character arc where he learns that the quest for shiny rocks is nothing compared to the loyalty of his crew, but unlike Sonic where he has this character arc done way too quickly, Dread's arc takes fucking forever. It lasts, I shit you not, pretty much the whole show. And it took his crewmates being attacked for like the third time for him to finally go,
I finally realized there are things more important than a shiny rock.
This was a moment that should have happened around the beginning of Season 3, not around the end, making his acceptance of his crew, letting go of the idea of being a legend, and making Black Rose the new captain, something that came out of nowhere, felt so misplaced in the season, and felt incredibly pointless. But where the emotional moments were at their worst for me was everything that was surrounding Nine. Nine's feelings of betrayal and going down a darker path was something that, in the right hands, could have been an amazing story of betrayal and one for Sonic to go through an extremely meaningful character arc. But the problem with this whole story was simply the fact that despite Nine telling him numerous times exactly what he wants to do with the prism, Sonic, for some strange reason, completely misunderstood him. This conflict isn't a case of Nine not being clear with Sonic and that's why he misread the situation. It's a case where, for this arc to have even happened, Sonic was either ignoring Nine entirely whenever Nine spoke to him, or he was just that stupid, with both explanations being as bad as each other. It was like the show had to force Sonic to be incredibly dumb and even out of character for this conflict to even occur. Why that's the case, I'll explain later. Nine also gets some redemption in the end, and this is where the show was supposed to get very emotional and you start feeling really bad for Nine. But like Captain Dread from before, this moment of him realizing what he's done after basically destroying everything around him felt so rushed and predictable. And even then, logically Nine has committed so many war crimes that he shouldn't have even gotten redemption. It could have been a pretty sweet story of a character going down a dark path and never returning, but this show is not allowed to have any kind of bite. There's also a whole point where the boys get to Sonic by using his shoes as a reference point in Season 3, and Nine, despite acknowledging that Sonic had no idea this was gonna happen, still has scenes afterwards where he accuses Sonic of betraying him and had sent them all to stop him.
You betrayed me for the last time. The deal is off. Tricked me. Clever. But betrayal comes easy to you. I didn't start the decay, the Chaos Council did. Then you betray me and bring everyone here to attack me? They triangulated your position and used your energy signature to breach the dome. Clever. That's what I would have done.
You knew that wasn't Sonic that did that!
Ugh, stop! You admitted that it's like, I would have done the same thing. They tracked your shit. Sonic, how dare you betray me?
Sonic Prime is so desperate for any kind of drama that this conflict is not just tacked on, it doesn't even make any sense. Nine, you literally admitted that you would have done the same thing. What the fuck are you talking about? And that's why the emotion in this show feels like it's worthless. The big reason why these moments just do not work is because the show doesn't earn them. there was little to no build-up towards these scenes, and the show has to bend itself over backwards or completely forget previous scenes to allow these arcs and character growths to even happen, making me think that some of these episodes were done out of order. And because of this, the show's tone will change from comedic to serious in sometimes a heartbeat, which made me get many cases of tonal whiplash. And because of these messy serious scenes, it also meant that the stakes surrounding the show felt completely all over the place, with some of the biggest cases being the fight scenes and filler. Let's tackle the fight scenes first. One thing that Sonic Prime was praised for when it came out was the fight scenes. Whenever characters got into a skirmish, the animation would become much more stretchy, exaggerated, and fast to give the fights an extra bit of oomph whenever they appeared. The choreography of these fights did a nice job at adapting and integrating different kinds of styles and behaviors emitted from certain characters, making their moves a lot more visually striking. And I would say that the fight scenes were generally pleasing to watch and were the best parts of Prime, if not for two glaring problems: repetition and lack of consequence. If you watched all the fight scenes from Season 1, you've basically experienced everything that a fight scene has to offer for the rest of Sonic Prime. Characters have a certain number of moves, and by everything that is holy will they stick to those moves, making all the fights feel like a fighting game where your character has only so many ways that they can hit someone. This is also hammered home with some voice lines being used over and over again. So if you happened to binge this show and wondered why you came out of seasons feeling a bit annoyed, that's a subtle but big reason why. But back to the fighting point, the repeated moves would have been easier to hide or could have been affected if it felt like these moves did any damage. But the issue is that they don't. To illustrate my damage point perfectly, I'm going to show you two stills of Sonic before and after a fight scene. In the before picture, you can see that Sonic has no signs of damage, no messy quills, no tired expression, no scratches, nothing, which makes complete sense, because this Sonic was not in a fight. However, if you notice in the after picture, Sonic looked the exact same. There are no indicators from his body language or his appearance that show that he's been through the ringer. So your assumption would rightfully be that because Sonic looks fine before and after, he must have never been touched, right? Well, here's the fight scene I took those stills from, and during that fight, this happened. Are you starting to see the problem here? Sonic, along with other characters in this show, takes so many life-ending blows straight to the face, and rather than showing any signs of pain, they all just brush it off like it was nothing. Everyone has the durability of a Tom and Jerry cartoon, and because of this, the fights, no matter how well choreographed and executed they were, have no weight behind them. In the world of Sonic Prime, there is no difference between someone getting punched in the face and being shot point blank by a missile, which makes some characters, especially the enemies in Season 3, feel like damage sponges that just refuse to die. This is why the fight scenes feel so repetitive and dragged out, because it felt like no matter how much the characters were dishing out or taking, neither side was budging at all, only finally being defeated when the plot demands them to. It was a constant back and forth that seemed to never end. But the thing is, an easy explanation for this would have been that if the characters had rings, they can then handle those massive blows. Something similar to Sad AM, where the rings gave Sonic a massive boost in energy. But in Sonic Prime, the rings are just brought up, used for like 2 scenes, and are never used again, making their addition feel pointless and confusing.
And we can wrap this up before dinner. First, just in case Eggman gets in a lucky shot, rings!
The reason why fight scenes are so fun to watch is because a fight tests a character's physical and mental limits to the extreme. The constant flurry of blows whittles down the combatants piece by piece, and through that, intensity and engagement are absolute guarantees, because the audience is now invested on which character is going to come out on top and which one is going to buckle. It's engaging when you see the blows have a true effect on the person who received them, and seeing the damage is the #1 way to show off the severity of the fight, which Prime has none of. Through the flashy choreography and the quick camera cuts and pans, the show is hiding the fact that the fights have the same weight and urgency of a child bumping their toys together but doesn't want to break them, leaving the show with having lots of bite without any teeth.
The way they are just getting thrown around, it's like someone is just throwing teddy bears all over the place.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
There's no actual weight to it.
And with the fights having no power making the stakes of the show feel all over the place, Sonic Prime is packed with some of the most obnoxious filler I've ever come across in Sonic's history. Do you know the feeling you get when you play a video game and you can just tell when a developer did something in a level just so that it would take you longer to beat it? That's what watching Prime feels like for 3 seasons. When I say that this show can drag, it really drags. Some plot points have such a simple start and finish, but will go on for far longer than they have any right to, because the show will keep throwing all kinds of obstacles and bullshit in front of Sonic to prevent him from getting anything done. This in and of itself wouldn't be a problem, but because Sonic has the attention span of a goldfish and does not try his hardest to escape when he can, he just allows this all to happen when the stakes outside of these fights are far bigger, leaving some entire sagas, like any storyline involving the pirates, feel worthless to the narrative. I am not kidding when I say that you could take out the pirate world and everything that goes on there, and close to nothing in the main plot would change. This world just pops up in Season 1 during a crucial moment in the Egg Yolk story, and Sonic, rather than doing whatever he can to get back to Egg Yolk and his friends, because he now knows that time works differently in each shattered space, and he has no idea how long being in the pirate world would mean for Egg Yolk, considering that in the jungle world he was gone for weeks, decides to just entertain whatever bullshit that these versions of his friends have to offer, seemingly just forgetting, like the writers, that his friends a whole world away are in mortal danger. Good god, this writing is shit. Then we get to Season 2, and the plan is simple. Sonic gets the shards from each world, while Shadow holds off the Egg Council as much as he can. Plan seems simple, right? This would only take maybe 1 or 2 episodes to complete. But not only does Shadow take forever in starting his sabotage with the Egg Council, creating artificial tension, but Sonic gets constantly interrupted by foes and takes so long to get the shards and get out of the worlds that the most apt comparison I can think of is when you're trying to hit top speed in Sonic CD to time travel, but the level's terrible design just doesn't let you. Show, I'm sorry that your plot lines are so simple, but my fucking goodness, this kind of filler is insulting. But those 2 seasons are absolutely nothing compared to the padding contained inside the last season of Prime. Oh my god. Season 3's filler makes Dragon Ball Z look like it's rushing. Season 3 has to be by far the worst bit of Sonic television I've ever had the misfortune of watching. To say that episodes 1 and 8 are the only episodes you really need to see to get a good idea on what's going on is understating the sheer amount of padding that was packed into this season. Episodes 2 and 3 were all about Sonic going back to New York to get away from 9, go to the pirate world to get some remaining friends back, even though the pirate crew should have already done that, but whatever, and then giving himself up to go back to stop 9, making everything he and the others did for those 2 episodes pretty much pointless. And for the rest, it is literally just 5 episodes of Sonic tries to talk to 9, he fails, 9 uses the prism's power, the boys fight as robots, the robots die and then regenerate, over, and over, and over, and over, and over again.
Hey guys, Sonic Prime Season 3 spoilers. No!
This pattern is so abusively repeated that to a certain point, I actually felt that I was going insane as scenes from different episodes started to blend into one, like a video game that's taking forever to complete. It's so poorly done that it's almost sickening to think that I was practically euphoric when 9, after so much time, finally got punched.
It's gonna hurt me a lot more than it's gonna hurt you. What?
Thank you. Oh god, that was so satisfying.
Okay, best character in the show.
Fuck you, Shadow.
Oh,
Hashtag Renegade
oh, thank you. Play that again. Oh, play that again. Oh, yes. Oh, god. Thank you. I have waited 5 episodes for this.
So far, everything from the inconsistent stakes, the rushed drama, the forced character arcs, and the relentless meandering plot padded with filler, this show feels like it was just a greenlit first draft. There was no sense of this show having any kind of revision done to it. And the reason why I feel like this script never had a second draft was due to the last, and dare I say, biggest problem with the show's execution. Its pacing.
Wow.
Hello, you fuckers flying!
Did it literally just happen just like that? What
No
the fuck?
fucking way. What was that?
Because they should not be looking the same way. What the fuck?
This just implies that those two have been flying for days and did nothing.
Yeah, let's just watch it unfold.
The pacing of Sonic Prime is beyond horrible, and I think a great way to show you how that is to give you some examples. Let's begin with the opening of the show. In the chronological order of events, Sonic and the boys fight an Eggman robot, and after some taunting, Sonic attacks the robot, causing a shockwave that makes a crack go up a cliff, which causes the prism to be uncovered. As Sonic and the gang talk things over, it's revealed that Eggman planned this all along, and he opens up the entrance to the prism, where the gang meet up at the loop-de-loop and Sonic speeds off to get some rings before he gets to Eggman. While the boys go up the mountain towards Eggman, Sonic is stopped by Shadow for a quick fight, Sonic reaches the gang late, the fight with Eggman begins, and the prism is shattered. Now, that story I told you wasn't hard to understand, right? This is a very straightforward plot that would have all the information contained in a neat package that would be a decent build-up to the Paradox Prism's destruction, which would then kick off the multiverse story and the real conflict can begin. After all, these scenes, when put back to back, are about 18 minutes of runtime, almost a whole episode, so you know, that would have been a-okay. Not the most exciting start, mind you, but it serves the plot perfectly fine. However, this straightforward plot is told not in one episode, but across 3, jumping in and out of flashbacks multiple times during crucial moments in the story. So how the story really went down in Sonic Prime's weird pacing, Episode 1 begins with Sonic reaching the gang late, the fight with Eggman begins, the prism is shattered, and Sonic runs around Egg Yolk for a bit. This triggers a flashback to where Sonic and the boys fight the Eggman robot, causing the shockwave and the prism to be uncovered, Sonic and the gang talk things over, Eggman opens the entrance to the prism, and the gang meet up at the loop-de-loop. Then, the show cuts back to Sonic and Egg Yolk. After a couple of scenes of this, the show cuts back again to where Sonic speeds off to find rings before he he gets to Eggman, where he is stopped by Shadow, ending episode 1. Episode 2 then kicks off a scene that goes further back, with Shadow finding a Chaos Emerald, where he reacts to the Shockwave incident. Then the episode resumes from last time, where he and Sonic fight for a bit, and it cuts back to Egg Yolk mid-fight. After more scenes in Egg Yolk where episode 2 ends, episode 3 kicks off, cutting back to the past again, where the boys are shown climbing up the mountain towards Eggman, even though they could have just flown up with Tails' plane, but whatever. Where we get the conclusion to Sonic and Shadow's affair, Sonic fucks off, Shadow follows him, and then we are finally back in the present in Egg Yolk, where we now know everything. This entire ordeal, one that could have been easily avoided if the writers just reordered the scenes, makes watching the beginning feel like driving a car that constantly stops at random intervals, making the opening feel directionless and confusing to follow. And I know there's going to be maybe one or two people who will defend this by saying that the reason the show wrote itself this way was because Sonic has temporary amnesia and is remembering what happened as time goes on. And while that is a fair argument, it does not justify the show's over-reliance on flashbacks, nor does it suddenly make the constant starting and stopping any more enjoyable to sit through. This could have been done way better if the script was drafted again. But the opening isn't where this ends. Oh God, no. Flashbacks and scenes done from other points of view are done everywhere. If I had to keep count of every time I saw a scene being replayed because the writers added something new into the next episode, I don't think I would have enough fingers and toes. And some flashbacks, like the ones about the Egg Council dividing up the city, or the backstories relating to Sonic meeting Knuckles and Tails in poor as fuck sprite animations. Seriously, why did they even bother with these? They look terrible. Feel absolutely pointless and gave me worthless information that I either already knew or don't care about because it adds nothing to the story. Why did they show us flashbacks of the OG versions of Sonic's friends, like they are the same as these new people? They are not the same. This feels pointless. This flashback is worthless. Stop trying to be clever, show. You're just tripping over yourself. Okay, so we got about 45 seconds into that episode. We could have just started here. That sprite animation was
What was
so
the point of
pointless.
that?
It's to show off fucking
be-
Sonic and Tails' friendship, and it's like, yeah, that's great. The only issue that I am having with this show, Nine's not Tails! From the constant jumping to flashbacks and scenes being done from another perspective, it feels like the writers wanted to tell you this grand story, but realized halfway through that they forgot to tell you some important information. So, to explain away potential problems and even plot holes, they backtracked, added a small scene in, and then continued along once that scene was done. This would all be fine if not for the fact that these small scenes that explain something prior were just left in that random place in the script rather than being moved closer towards the starting point, resulting in more than 5 flashbacks in 3 episodes in Season 1 and many more happening across Season 2, making Sonic Prime's pacing feel like an annoying game of mental hopscotch. I have absolutely no idea whether it was due to a lack of vision or lack of time to go back and fix plot errors, but overall, the story's narrative felt so rushed and all over the place, making Sonic Prime just an unpleasant experience to watch. But those were just my criticisms surrounding the plot. There's also the characters, and my god, when I say that these characters were so poorly done, I'm not exaggerating. Let's just dive into them, shall we? Sonic Prime's characters suffer from the writing that I made an entire point of when I reviewed High Guardian Spice all those years ago. That point being that the characters feel too one-note in their personalities. changing drastically whenever the plot demands that there should be conflict. With the whole story being all about the multiverse, this was a great opportunity to try and diversify the characters' personalities, venturing into new ways someone could write the characters that we all know and love. And to an extent, there's glimpses of that being the case. I would be lying out of my ass if I said that I didn't see at least some variation among the cast, but where I would say that these characters fall apart is that there's little to no development for a lot of them, leading them to be either blank slates or a character that is only defined by their core trait. Let's begin by talking about Sonic's friends: Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, and Big. Knuckles and Tails are the ones that I felt had the most variation out of Sonic's friends. Tails is split into an edgy castaway, a dog, and I guess Tails but with an accent, while Knuckles is split into a serious leader, Styx the Badger, and a leader. Again, a leader who also has this weird obsession with the word beauty.
Me beauty, 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 me beauty.
See, already I've highlighted one of the things that make Sonic Prime feel annoying to watch. A lot of these characters feel too samey from one another, and nowhere is that more blatant than with the show's handling of Rouge and Amy. Amy is split into 3 personalities that, while very different, go through the same arc. In Egg Yolk, she is an angry robot who later becomes a sweet girl. In the Jungle World, she is the angry hippie lady who later becomes a sweet girl. And in the Pirate World, she is a sassy girl who later becomes a leader and a sweet girl.
You two are actually a lot alike, you know that?
The lack of variation behind Amy's arcs is truly a sight to behold. At season 3, these Amys just blend into one for me. They try to do this whole cute thing where they're like sisters from different worlds, and it's like, yeah, this is great. I wish I cared. I wish you guys had just a little more going for you. But then, we have Rouge. In both the Jungle and Egg Yolk worlds, she is just the serious leader who doesn't trust outsiders, yet does the moment they're polite, even once. And the Pirate World? Yeah, I got nothing on her, she's just there filling in a space. But the worst character when it comes to variations was Big. He is basically the same person in every single world. I would have to seriously stretch and nitpick tiny details if I wanted to tell you about any differences between his variations. It was like the writers had just no idea what to do with Big, and had to put him in last minute in order to fit the multiverse quota. And that's where the core problem I have with these guys lie. A good handful of these characters, if you were to take them out of the story entirely, would barely change the plot. Some of these guys leave such little impact in terms of the story's stakes that they just feel like wasted space and clutter up this already very big cast, leading to some of them just being completely forgotten about, or 2 characters blending in together into a pile of sludge due to a lack of identity. The writers wanted you to believe that these characters are completely different from their regular versions, and from each other, but the spectrum between these different takes, personalities, and goals are so minuscule that they feel like they have too much in common to be truly called different. Because of this lack of difference, it made Nine's whole thing of betraying Sonic, weirdly enough, kind of predictable, because in every other world, a member of Sonic's friends was a main villain or rival that betrayed him. In Egg Yolk, it was Nine, in the Jungle World, it was Prim, and in the Pirate World, it was Captain Dread. In every world, there was a betrayal, which led to a lot of the plots and character arcs feel like they were repeating themselves among the groups. See, that's another small issue with Sonic's friends. They're always grouped together. Outside of New York, which is the only time they were all separated in different ways, it was like no matter which dimension they're in, Sonic's friends are always a group. I understand that this might have been to show the sheer deepness of their friendship, but this group dynamic ends up making the Jungle and the Pirate worlds feel too samey, with the 2 worlds having barely any difference in terms of their plots. Seriously, I can't overstate just how pointless the pirate world was. Jesus Christ, it didn't need to be here. But these lackluster versions of the characters are one thing. The new and completely original ones that Prime introduced? Good God. Starting with the OCs, because, come on, let's be honest, that's basically what they are. I could not tell you a single thing about them that makes them different, besides the fact that one of them is voiced by Jacksepticeye, or that any of them could have just been replaced with a variation of Sonic's friends, and nothing would have changed. Which the show really could have taken advantage of, but they just didn't. Chaos Sonic, the show's version of Metal Sonic, was also a thing, and my only thought about him was that his character would have added up to something if Sonic learned anything from him, but he didn't, so Chaos Sonic was just very annoying for the entirety of his runtime. I was glad when he finally got slanked by the rainbow. And the last bunch of characters, the Chaos Council, were by far the most annoying pile of stereotypes that outstayed their welcome by the end of Season 1. These characters' names are their entire personality. With such creative names like Dr. Deep, Dr. Don't, Dr. Babble, Dr. Dunnit, and Mr. Dr. Eggman, think of any basic joke that you can make with their concept and you have pretty much written Sonic Prime in your head. It's made even worse because every scene that these characters are in feel the exact fucking same. It's just constant scenes of them arguing, doing a thing that reminds you of their archetype, making painfully unfunny and repetitive jokes that just made me want to nuke them from orbit. These villains were an absolute hindrance to the plot, and from their collective stupidity and lack of grit, it just made me question how in the everlasting fuck these guys took over the world, let alone be a threat to the multiverse. I mean, say what you want about the Deadly Six being basic bad guys that do not go out of their stereotype, but at least they had a girl for eye candy, I guess. And just, oh my god, I just wanted to punt Dr. Babble into the stratosphere because my god, if I had to hear him do the same cry line one more time, my brain would have burst a wrinkle. So to conclude, the characters in Sonic Prime are a complete waste of potential and time. From the lack of variation, lack of dynamic, and lack of substance, these characters are a shining example of how a multiverse story should not be done. My goodness, so many of these characters are just nothing. But where I believe that the show messed up the most in regards to character writing was how Sonic Prime handled Sonic himself. Good fucking god. What did this show do to him? For a brief moment in time, Sonic Prime was considered to be canon to the games, and because of this, I found the show's portrayal of Sonic to be so disgustingly out of character that I'm astonished that he and Game Sonic were at one point in time considered to be the same person. Take everything that made Game Sonic fun and likable, completely reverse it and dumb it down, and the end result would be Prime Sonic. By far one of the worst iterations of this character. Let's go down the line of problems with point number 1. Prime Sonic is way too stupid. Sonic in Prime has the intelligence and attention span of a toddler, making him an absolute dumbass that takes way too long to figure things out or read the room. For example, when Sonic goes to Nine in Egg Yolk, he tries to talk to him, and because Nine has no idea who Sonic is because in this timeline they've never met, the two have a fight.
The only thing I despise more than people in my space is whiners.
Wait!
Now I could excuse Sonic taking a longer time to put the pieces together, but the fact that nothing he was saying was getting through to Nine, any other character with more than 2 brain cells would have stopped trying this method of getting someone to remember them and change their strategy. But Sonic? He keeps trying to talk about all the good memories he and Tails had together, even after Nine told him his backstory, where he wasn't even there.
When you get your memory back, you'll remember that low profile isn't my thing.
Sonic already was on a bad foot with 9, but he continues to try and make everyone remember each other and genuinely believes that Eggman used the Paradox Prism to make everyone different.
Oh yeah, the whole Eggman messed up the universe thing, but no one remembers any of that.
Sonic, what are you doing? What's not clicking? Do you seriously believe that everyone just has amnesia? Really? Good lord, it takes him so long to see that something is off. But hey, look, maybe I'm being too harsh. Sonic can get a slight pass considering that so much is happening at once and his thoughts just aren't all there. Fine, whatever. But the thing is, it doesn't end there. After dealing with all of the BS in New York City, Sonic goes off towards another universe where the world is overgrown and primal. And after seeing new versions of the characters, instead of noticing that everyone is different and realizing something's off, he for some reason thinks that the primal versions are the same people as the New York versions. Sonic, please stop being so dumb. Sonic's stupidity in this show is absolutely everywhere, and this lack of intelligence bleeds over to his one defining trait, his speed. And here's why I believe the story handles it so poorly. If there's one thing that I've started to notice in Sonic media that isn't the games, it's that writers can't seem to get Sonic's speed right. It's probably been the most inconsistent thing about him. Sonic from the start has been established to go above the speed of sound, which is really fast. But in some media, he's even been shown to go even faster than that. Examples being in the Sonic films, and specifically Prime. Sonic going at this level of fast creates a problem in his stories, because whenever anything intense happens and time is of the essence, the question I always found myself asking is, why didn't Sonic go faster? Why does so much stuff happen in the plot when it all could have been avoided if he went quicker? And the trend that I've started to notice is that so many of the intense scenes that Sonic media has had recently, like in some episodes of Prime, lost a lot of their punch when I sat down and wondered why Sonic doesn't just go Quicksilver and resolve everything immediately, when there are scenes depicting Sonic's super speed over and over again. And the problem is that the only answer is that if he did go faster, there would be no conflict, because the story would be over. Sonic Prime relies on the fact that Sonic is either too forgetful or too stupid to know that he could bolt halfway across an island in a few seconds flat. And the thing is, there's easy explanations that the show could give. Sonic could have used way too much energy and he'd be exhausted, he's trapped in a tight space, he needs a lot of rings to make it happen, or the terrain isn't the best. But the problem is that Prime only has an explanation for, ironically, the pirate world. In everywhere else, Sonic doesn't go faster because if he did, there wouldn't be a story, which is really shitty writing. The only other thing that they try is that they make Sonic very clumsy. He is constantly tripping over himself in this show, even though him being clumsy with his speed after using it for so many years makes no sense at all. Every time this happens, it feels like the writers sometimes forget, or want you to forget, that Sonic is actually really fast and would go full speed in dire situations. He wouldn't just let shit happen because of plot, no matter how cocky he can be at times. It paints Sonic as being way too incompetent when he should know how fast he can go after running around for his entire life. The writers have to sometimes change his character to using only one brain cell so that a conflict can even have a chance to arise. This issue is one of the many reasons why I don't enjoy Prime. Sonic is only as fast as the writers need him to be in order to be able to tell the stories they want to without any setbacks or obstacles. He's pretty much a slave that is tied down to the story's narrative. Sonic is written in a way where he has to bend over to the plot rather than the plot being written to bend to him. This reason is why Sonic Prime is very frustrating to me at times. Every time I see him in a bad situation, I'm always just shouting, "Just go faster." If the story has to nerf Sonic's speed, make him way too clumsy, or make him forget he's fast in order for certain plot beats to happen without any good explanation, then it's not a good Sonic story. And defending him being incompetently slow in a story by saying if he wasn't we wouldn't have a story is not a good defense. Sonic stories need to remember that Sonic is fast, so write stories that challenge that. If you don't, it just makes the plot feel like it's running on pure convenience, which isn't good writing. Speaking of convenience, point number 2. Sonic can't handle conflict. Aside from his speed being a thing he knows next to nothing about, Sonic gets the new power of talking things out. Because yes, talking out and processing feelings like a therapist is definitely something Sonic is known to do a lot. He's only good at it when the writing is peak. But where I feel Prime went extremely wrong with this new side of Sonic was the way they handled him trying to handle conflicts. Because he has no skills in it whatsoever. Sonic tries to talk to everyone about resolving whatever slights they have with one another, and because he's so bad at it and just can't read the room, he ends up causing more conflict and destruction around him. In the jungle arc, he tries to bridge the gap between the gang and Thorn, but it goes tits up. And in the pirate world, he gets into a spat with the crew because Dredd accused him of betraying them all, and it doesn't go well because nobody sees the obvious red flags Dredd is giving off. So with all this, talking isn't exactly a strong point, right? You think that Sonic would have other ways of dealing with conflict if he can't talk things out. Well, you are wrong. Because after a few episodes of forced drama, the show will all of a sudden, without changing his strategy whatsoever, have Sonic talk to a character, and then the talking works. This talk no jutsu bullshit is at its absolute worst with 9, where even despite showing Sonic that he does not give a single shit about anybody but himself and Sonic, at least to a certain point, Sonic is constantly trying to talk to 9 in the exact same way he's been doing it since season 1, which of course does not work. And then, all of a sudden, it's only in the very last episode does the Talk no Jutsu finally get to 9 and he tries to fix his wrongdoings. Sonic, you have had the same conversation with 9 over 10 times and he hasn't budged. Can you please just kick his ass or something? My god. People had valid criticisms about Steven from Steven Universe using Talk no Jutsu to resolve his conflicts, but at least even he knew when enough was enough. Sonic does this once or twice with 9 in the first 2 seasons, and then for season 3, it's pretty much the entire runtime. I swear if you took a shot every time Sonic tried to talk to 9, your fucking grandkids would wake up hungover. And all of this Talk no Jutsu is something that Sonic must do because this show is all about him going on a journey. A quest of self-discovery. But here's the problem. Point number 3. Sonic has nothing to learn. Apart from 9. I find this show's relentless crusade on making Sonic out to be a flawed character that has loads to learn for a lot of the runtime to be incredibly annoying. And I know that that sentence has raised a couple of eyebrows in some of you, because why would I be against the show making Sonic a flawed person? Shouldn't that make for more interesting storytelling because now the character has something to learn? Well, the reason why I didn't like how this series handled Sonic's character arc was because of this. When Sonic makes mistake after mistake in this show, the only reason why he does them, excluding the mistakes he makes with 9, which I have already talked about before, is all because of outside interference. Let me give you some examples. Take for instance episode 1, where Sonic and the boys are fighting a robot controlled what they all assume to be Eggman, and during the skirmish, Tails finds out that Eggman isn't in the robot. Sonic is about to deliver the final blow until Tails tells him that it's all a trap. Eggman goads Sonic into hitting him, Sonic does what he always does and goes through with his attack, leading to the robot's defeat and the shockwave that causes lots of damage to Green Hill. Now this situation doesn't look great for Sonic, but what the show doesn't do that would have made this way more effective is that Tails, the one who spotted the problem, does not tell Sonic that Eggman isn't in the robot. He only tells Sonic that it's a trap, leaving out the crucial detail that would have certainly made Sonic think twice about attacking the robot. Now, could it be possible that Sonic would have given in to his impulses after he was told that fact? Maybe. That might have been a possibility. But the fact that Tails didn't even tell him what was happening and just said,
Sonic, no, it's a trap,
over and over again, even though it's safe to assume that Sonic has fallen for traps before and got out of them just fine, it makes complete sense that Sonic would just go ahead and defeat Eggman, especially if he was being taunted by quips about his friends that shouldn't have even offended him, but that's just me nitpicking. So after this happens, Tails flies off in a bit of a strop because Sonic didn't listen, but it's like, my brother in Christ, you didn't even tell him what's up. What did you think was gonna happen? Do you not know who Sonic is at this point? A character knowing some crucial information and not telling anyone about what's going on until it's too late? Where have I seen this before? Example number 2 is when Sonic goes to the jungle world, and because he's seen talking to Thorn, the Primal Gang think that he ended up betraying them, even though they basically sent him to his death when he said he would fight the monsters. So what right do these people have to choose Sonic out? Sonic doesn't have to apologize for anything he does in the jungle arc. He really doesn't.
Where's he going with the monster? He's betrayed us.
Well, look what the cat dragged in.
What are you doing here? The last time we saw you, you were with the monster betraying us. He's fast.
Fast enough to occupy the monster, while we grab what we need.
Fuck off!
Example number 3 is when Sonic returns to Egg Yolk and is given a lot of shit for it. And when he's finally been told that he was actually gone for weeks and 9 left the boys to die, Sonic, instead of getting defensive and telling these people to fuck off, apologizes and promises that he will try and get to 9, saying he's sorry for things that were never even his fault. Sonic has just told you that he wasn't fucking here for reasons outside of his control, and you still have the balls to give him shit for it.
I thought you explained everything.
I did. She didn't care.
Are you retarded?
What is with Sonic Prime and making all of Sonic's friends so fucking mean to him? Like seriously, my guy didn't even do anything. And to top all of this bullshit off, 9 manages to get Sonic out of the fight. Sonic returns to the boys after he finds out 9 isn't coming with him, which makes you wonder how long he was gone considering that time works differently across the Shadowverse, but they never explain that again. And Sonic, being a good friend, tries to lie to the Chaos Council about not knowing any more shards, then gets busted by Rusty, who recorded him. And the rebels look fed up like he's been stupid when he was just explaining to them where he's been. What is wrong with all of you? Holy fuck.
The rodent is lying. Let's toast him. Come on, boss. Let me tear the scoundrel limb from limb. How did they find us? Can't be a coincidence.
Back the fuck off, you worthless nobody. Jesus, who pissed in your cereal? But example number 4, and the example that I think really hammers this point home, is the shattering of the Paradox Prism, the inciting incident of this entire story. In Season 1, Episode 1, the series doesn't show you who actually broke the prism. All it showed in that scene was the shockwave, and then the story began. The writers did this intentionally because in Episode 3, the scene is played again, and the writers attempted to do this big plot twist that the person who actually shattered the prism was in fact Sonic. This is basically the central conflict of Sonic's character. The show will tell you over and over and over again that Sonic was the one that caused all of this to happen, with 9 and Shadow being the main people that blame Sonic for the Shatterverse. If Sonic just wasn't so headstrong and showed some restraint and listened to his friends, then none of this would have happened. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Sonic has gone too far, and now he has to bear the brunt of his mistake, where he will grow into a more mature character by making sure he doesn't do it again. And I'm not exaggerating, the show constantly reminds you of Sonic's mistake. There are scenes where they practically fucking humiliate him.
I shattered the Paradox Prism. I broke everything.
When you broke the Paradox Prism, you broke a reality. Home doesn't exist anymore because of you!
How do I fix this? I know I caused this.
But deep down, after what you did, destroying your own home, it's the only way you can ever live with yourself.
The only way to fix the reality you shattered. Sonic, you literally broke our world. Why would I trust you to do anything?
And this could have been a very satisfying character arc that would have been very engaging to see a character like Sonic go through. That would be the case if that was what actually fucking happened. Because in reality, the show just lied to you, and absolutely none of this was Sonic's fault. And to explain my point, let's rewind to that moment, shall we? According to this show's own animation, Sonic was attacking Eggman, spin dashing in midair, and Eggman was the one who put the Phantom Prism in front of himself as a makeshift shield, which caused Sonic to ram into it and shatter the Paradox Prism. This is not me taking a scene out of context, the animators animated this. This was what happened. Now, are you seriously trying to tell me that because Sonic didn't see this coming and didn't divert at the last second, he's to blame for the outcome of this situation? Are you seriously trying to argue that because Sonic doesn't have the magical ability to look into the future, him accidentally ramming into the prism that he knew wasn't there a few seconds ago is all his fault? Like, was Sonic supposed to predict that Eggman would be so stupid that he would use the Paradox Prism as a shield to defend himself? Like, because if that's the case, that's fucking ridiculous. Well, I have no words. Like, what? Show, come on. This is the equivalent of throwing a punch at one person and then suddenly another person dives in front of you, which makes you hit them instead. And rather than that person who jumped in front of you apologizing for getting in your way, this person then has the gall to look at you all betrayed and say,
"Hey yo, why'd you hit me?"
Like, motherfucker, I wasn't aiming at you. You put yourself in that situation. Huh? This incident was Sonic's main arc. This is about him fixing a wrong that wasn't even his fault. God show, you didn't even get 2 minutes into your runtime and you are already off to a very shaky start. But the humiliation of Sonic doesn't end there. Not only does Sonic Prime try to make him out as being too rash, but it also tries to paint him as being too selfish. Oh my god, this character arc was stupid. In episode 5 of season 1, Sonic has to deal with the Jungle People's problems, like I mentioned before. But what I didn't reveal to you in this part was that through resolving this conflict, Sonic has a moment of introspection that he's been too self-absorbed, and that because he didn't take a moment to appreciate the good times he's had with his friends, he knows nothing about friends sticking together. An interesting arc for someone like Sonic to go on, right? Surely this would make logical sense given what we know about Sonic in the past. But there is one glaring problem. The issue is that this arc, one that could be a very good one for Sonic to learn, is completely ruined because this Sonic is not the same as the one in the flashback. Matter of fact, he's the complete opposite. Sonic, for the whole story up to this point, has constantly shown to have a deep level of care and respect for his friends. He took every chance he got to try and get his friends to remember all the good times they've had together, and he's always hyping up the people around him whenever he gets a chance, calling them a team whenever they fight together. Sonic goes through an arc of realizing he's been too selfish all this time, but the show hasn't been showcasing Sonic to be like this besides this one outlying moment of dickishness. From how nice Sonic has been acting up to this point, it's like he already remedied this mistake completely off screen. This Sonic has constantly been shown to be nice, caring, and trusting of his friends, arguably way too much so. So this arc of him finally seeing that he needs to think about others makes zero fucking sense. I just cannot believe that this show's attempts to pull wool over your eyes are this fucking bad. It's just that this whole journey doesn't feel earned. The show's attempts to pull wool over your eyes to make you want to see Sonic get better for righting a wrong that wasn't even his fault is staggering and truly annoying. Sonic Prime's entire backbone is built on a lie that takes a pair of eyes and 2 seconds of thought to figure out, making everything that Sonic has to go through in this show feel worthless, relentless, and even a bit cruel. Sonic, besides your fucking confusing stupidity with 9, you have done absolutely nothing wrong. Will you stand up for yourself? Stop just taking it on the chin, my god.
Him! We don't even trust you! Fine, I don't need you guys slowing me down anyway.
Based.
They can handle it. Focus on the shards. Focus on the shards. Why am I running into battle?
And now I'm about to blow my fucking brains out!
Now you might be asking yourself, could there have been a way to fix up Sonic's character to where the criticisms I made towards him could be fixed or at least utilized to give him a more solid character arc? From my perspective, one simple change that could make this story at least a lot more tolerable is one simple fix. Just make Sonic a jerk. Because the biggest problem with Sonic in Prime is that he is way too nice. Despite everyone giving him unnecessary shit and turning their backs on him all the time for very petty reasons, Sonic never gets angry or even defensive, always taking responsibility for things outside of his control and seeing the good in a bad situation when really what these characters deserve is a punch to the face. Even though some characters commit absolute atrocities, Sonic just forgives them and lends out a hand so that they can try redeem themselves. In my version of Sonic Prime, this Sonic would only start appearing in the last season, and for the other two, he would be very different. Here is what I would have done if I was given this assignment. Instead of hyping up his friends all the time like in the original, Sonic is now selfish, egotistical, and completely mindless to his friends' contributions. Rather than seeing them as his equals, Sonic treats them more like how a leader would treat his followers, only thanking them if they make himself look better. When we get to the scene of Sonic apologizing to Tails in episode 1, in this version, Sonic only apologizes because he's annoyed at Tails being rightfully mad at not listening to him. Also in this iteration, Tails told Sonic exactly what the problem was and Sonic still went ahead with it, showing that Sonic is rash. When Tails tries to speak to Sonic and tell him how worried he is about Sonic constantly getting into trouble, instead of apologizing, Sonic would just roll his eyes and then justify his rash behavior, saying that he's been in Eggman's traps all the time and he got out without a scratch, completely dismissing Tails' feelings and further showing that he's so self-absorbed that the idea of consequences is a foreign concept to him. At the start of the show, it is clear that Sonic doesn't stop to think about how his actions are affecting the rest of the group. Then, when we get around to the Prism incident, this is where Sonic's character arc can begin. For drama's sake, I'll still do the whole thing where it's a mystery on who actually shattered the prism, but for the majority of the show, we're led to believe that it was Eggman that did it, not Sonic, because Sonic is our only narrator, and he's constantly saying so. Sonic will tell everyone who happens to listen that this was all Eggman's fault. He was the one that shattered the prism, and he's going to get all the shards back so that he can go home as soon as he can. And because Sonic is so focused on going home, rather than being genuinely nice to the new versions of his friends, Sonic treats them all with a fake kindness, seeing them as fake versions of his friends from Green Hill and a means to get to the shards quicker, dipping the moment he gets his hands on one. Well, at least he tries to. Because, you know, every time he touched a shard in Season 1, he ended up teleporting. That could even be a funny running joke. And in my version, he comes to the Voltiverse conclusion a lot quicker because My god, Sonic didn't have to be so dumb. With this mindset, rather than helping the others resolve their conflicts, Sonic just barrels through each of their worlds without a care in the world, leaving each shatter space in complete chaos and destruction. And it's when he realizes that he can't put the prison back together himself and things start going wrong, does he start going back to the worlds, seeing who can help him. Shadow at this point is around and saying the same stuff about all his friends being fake like in the original show, but rather than Sonic arguing against him, he actually agrees, and tells Shadow that he will get the shards quickly through charm and wit. But because in some worlds he was gone for weeks on end, him coming back is why so many people don't trust him anymore. And because Sonic wants to go home, he starts faking sadness and helps out the people reluctantly at first, but as he does so, he starts seeing and feeling very slowly the power of friendship and teamwork. Throughout this character arc, Sonic would start talking properly to Nine, and because Nine isn't a kiss-ass and can stand up for himself, Sonic learns to respect and even start to like him, though he still sees him as a fake Tails. For more drama, Nine could be talking about starting a new life in the Grim, which was the dead world that he went to in the show, and Sonic only agrees to start a new life with Nine because he is his only way out of here. So Sonic is gathering these shards knowing that he's going to ditch Nine in the end, and through this, he starts questioning his lie the closer the prism gets to completing. And this is where the big drama can proceed. When we get to the big misunderstanding and argument in Season 2, Sonic, instead of being sad and confused that Nine didn't have the last shard with him, he instead gets really angry and starts arguing with Nine properly, dropping the facade of him living with Nine and coming clean about why he wants the prism back together. This is where Nine would feel utterly betrayed and be furious with Sonic, leading to a very intense argument, where Sonic can say, like in the original show, "I assume that after everything we've been through, you'd see things the way I do, just like the real Tails would," saying it in a much angrier tone because he desperately wants to go home. And with this new tone, Nine snapping back with the "I am real" line is now so much more impactful because it shatters Sonic's worldview and makes him see just how much he's been taking advantage of an innocent person, finally seeing these supposed fake versions of his friends as real people. And to add more to this drama, it's at this time that we could get what actually happened to the prism. In my version, as the show went on, the flashback to the prism incident kept playing, where at first, it looks obvious that Eggman was at fault, because Sonic wouldn't take the blame for causing such a catastrophic event. But as Sonic grows as a character, the scene starts to change. Slowly at first, and then more drastic. It morphs from being entirely Eggman's fault to Eggman putting the gem in front of Sonic, like in the original show, to Sonic accidentally running into it himself, until finally, when Sonic goes through enough growth that it causes the truth to trigger, we get the whole scene, where we see that it truly was Sonic's fault all along. To hammer it home, Sonic could have done a whole thing where he goes to the prism, pulls it out of the ground, and when everyone shouts at him to put it down, he ignores them, and smashes it right in front of them, with the mindset that this would be a good last kick to the nuts while Eggman is down. This dangerously reckless action was what really happened, and it's more effective because Sonic is no longer self-absorbed and is confronted with all of his lies and all of his mistakes at once. This revelation would change everything, and would perfectly explain why he tries to talk to Nine instead of fighting him. Sonic in Season 3 is trying to fix his wrongs, and rather than trying to guilt-trip 9 into being friends again, he's constantly and sincerely reaching out to apologize. But 9, feeling utterly betrayed, doesn't want to hear it. Shadow could also be doing a whole thing of trying to kill 9, but Sonic, seeing him as a real person now, fights Shadow on it, causing some tension between the two. So with 9 not listening and taking his anger out on everyone else, Sonic now has to get all the other universes to stop 9. But because of all of his manipulation for the past 2 seasons, he has to do a lot of bridge building and reconciliation for these people to be on board, using the logic of do it to save your world rather than to help him. It's through this arc does Sonic start sticking his neck out for a lot of the people on the battlefield, seeing them now as valid friends and gradually building up their trust over the fight. So, when 9 is finally calmed down and Sonic does one last sacrifice, all of his new friends, knowing that their existence will cease to be if Sonic goes home, help him out anyway, because he ended up doing so much for them, making the scene of them all working together to get him back home have much more weight behind it. These people may be different versions of Sonic's original friends, but the emotions that they made him feel throughout the story were real, making this a scene that could have been a deeply bittersweet moment that might have got someone crying. And it's through their sacrifice and Sonic going home does he change his ways, treating his friends much better than before, and the next time they all fight Eggman, he asks them for help and advice on what to do, concluding the arc that Sonic Prime, allegedly, made him go through. Now, is my version perfect? No, of course not. There's still a lot of problems that could arise from this being the plot, and the world building and other characters were things I did not address. And you can certainly argue that because of this arc I wasn't sticking to the canon character of Sonic, which makes mine a bad adaptation, which, yeah, would be completely fair, I'll give you that. But even though other parts of the show may still be lackluster and I wasn't true to the actual essence of Sonic, at least you could see that I clearly tried to make Sonic go through a character arc that was obvious, rather than the gaslighting bullshit that was the arc in Sonic Prime. This show was so desperately wanting you to believe that Sonic is now a more mature character, but the truth is that the Sonic at the start of the show and the Sonic at the end of the show, after everything he went through, are the same character, with the only difference being Sonic complimenting his team more, something he already did ad nauseum throughout the whole show. To prove it, here's a line that Sonic said in episode 1 of season 1.
Because when you've got a crew like mine, there's nothing that can stop you.
And here's a line he said at episode 7 of season 3.
If I've learned anything, it's that we're a team. And together, we're unstoppable.
The fact that these lines sound like they were said mere minutes from each other is truly pathetic. Good God, did Sonic Prime just fumble this character. Okay, with all of my critiques of this show done and dusted, was there anything I liked? Is there even a nugget of gold tucked away in this pile of shit that I can pull out and say was good? Well, I have 2. The voice acting, while not all incredibly good, was still very solid. The voice actors of a lot of the characters gave off a great performance of not just sounding like the characters from the games, but having the same inflections and speech patterns of their video game counterparts. Tails' voice actress Ashley Ball, I would argue, is the best actor in the show, and her voice fitted Tails like a perfectly sized glove, having a boyish sound that doesn't come off as too old or too feminine. Ashley was genuinely great. I want to hear her in more stuff. But I think that out of everybody, the best voice actor was Devin Mack, who was an amazing Sonic. He manages to capture the energy, the inflections, and the undermining sound of Sonic, taking the best aspects from all the other voices over the years to create a voice that stands as one of the greatest versions of the character. I know for a fact that with the right script and tone, Devin would be a perfect Sonic. It's just a massive shame that this project was his debut. I really cannot praise him enough. The potential of this guy being the new Sonic is truly insane. Sega, I'm just saying, you've got a good Sonic. You really can do something with this guy, just saying. And my second bit of praise, and by far my favorite part of Prime, was Shadow. Shadow was the only kind of fresh air that was contained in this show. He was the most consistent, logical, and effective character. He was in fact so effective that the show had to come up with a reason on why he couldn't be the one to get the shards, because the writers found out very quickly that if left to his own devices, Shadow would have gotten all the shards and completed the whole mission in probably 1 or 2 episodes. It's insane just how much the story had to nerf Shadow's character just so that it could have any kind of stakes. Which makes all the times where Shadow lets Sonic talk to Nine and is left out of the show entirely to be incredibly frustrating. Shadow was the only reasonable person in the story and literally does nothing wrong. He was very entertaining. Not to mention his voice, stellar.
What part of our home doesn't exist anymore are you not understanding? Green Hill is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Whatever it is, it's in our way. Sonic, you literally broke our world. Why would I trust you to do anything? No, he's not Tails, he's Nine, and they're not your real friends.
I have the most awkward boner!
But that's pretty much all I've got. And all in all, I did not like Sonic Prime. Its existence is an example of what happens when a story has no idea how to pace itself or how to deliver unsatisfying character arcs, leaving it as a show that was filled to the brim with padding that hopes to hide a narrative that's about as deep as a puddle. Sonic Prime may have got a pass for a very long time among fans, but it was when Season 3 came out did everyone, even the most die-hard fans of the show, finally see it for what it really was. A glorified and directionless waste of time that added nothing to the franchise. I have never seen a show with such an interesting premise waste every chance it got to do something meaningful. And that lack of vision, to me, was Sonic Prime's greatest sin. This show was painfully disappointing. To the fans, I agree that Sonic Prime isn't as bad as Sonic's worst, but just because it didn't hit rock bottom, that doesn't mean that it didn't drown in its own shit on the way down. Sonic has gone through a little phase, and with all the new stuff with Shadow coming out, hopefully this franchise will turn into something that I think is worth being praised. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll make a deeply personal video about what Sonic means to me exactly. But for now, my name is Manga Rider, and I'll see you in the next one.
He's not on his own.
Well, you really didn't do much. Okay.
We're all on our own.
Shut up, Nine.
But
9, just
It's like-
stop. Just shut up.
we're all on our own. There's a guy that made a robot Sonic and is literally watching 2 people work together.
Shadow, can
Not
you just
exactly-
get a rock from the planet and throw it at 9, please? Can you just do something? Can you punch 9 at least once in this fucking show? I swear to God. Jesus Christ, this show keeps holding you back. Let Shadow cook, for fuck's sake, let him cook.
We're all on our own. Ow!
Like, Shadow's like, oh, God, that felt good.
You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that.
I like to imagine a bit later, it's like, Shadow, what do we do with 9? Hold on, let me grab more rocks.
It's like it's like pans over to Shadow and he's already like fucking like machine barraging fucking rocks towards 9. It's like, Shadow, Jesus!
Alright, Shadow, are you ready? Shadow walks in, arm full of rocks. Let's do this.
He's got all that he needs.
Just like Shadow off on the rocks, just a goofy ass shading grin on his face.
We ending this show tonight, boys.
It's such a stupid.
God,
I'm crying.
Just like when, when they do fix Green Hill, they get back. Shadow sees Tails. Hey, Tails, you want a rock?
No, it's like Tails. Boom. Shadow.
Oh, crap. It's just close.
This bit should not be that funny.